Okay, we got the screws that we need here, and the nuts for these. So first things first, let's do the other side first. Let's take this out real quick to make our life easier. So we put this guy on here, put this nut on first. That's going to be for one side of the rod end because the ball needs a place to pivot. So putting this nut on, we'll tighten that up. And do the same for the other side. We'll tighten this up. So now we've got the two nuts that we need here. So now we basically put the rod end next, and we'll put one more nut here to hold it down. And there's enough clearance for the ball to move, for the rod end to move, and the ball actually to stay still, but the rod end to move. So you need a little bit of clearance. That's why you need the nuts on each side. So there you go. Okay. Just tighten that up just a little bit. And do the same for the other side. Okay, so now you got this in play here. So while we're at it, I might as well toss in another nut for that rod end there, for the steering. Might as well do that now as well. Let me go find another screw for that. I'm going to take this out and screw a rod end onto that. And then put this back in place here. All right, so that's for the steering. This one will go like this way because this goes on the top. Okay, so now we're ready to put this back. So this guy will go this like this. May have to cut down that steering rod end just like I did the rest. It's just sticking out way too much. So let's do that and come back. Okay, so yes, a bit of a hack job, I get it. But since we don't have the original parts until I find smaller rod ends, this will have to do for now, just for the build. So, okay. All right. Is it the best in the world? No. But and maybe we can push this out just a little bit out that way, but if we did that, then it'd kind of have to come in at an angle, so don't really want to do that. This is about as best that we can do. We can always cut down this little rubber piece there, but we'll just kind of leave it as it is for now. And we'll just make that hole just a little bigger so the rod end can push through a little bit. Okay, so not one to admit self-defeat. I just wanted to point out that I did trim the little boot, and I did put the boot back on here. So now we're all good where that's concerned. So that leaves us with the front and rear wheels. So 4 bolts. Okay, there we go. So we got the 4 bolts sticking out there. Now what we got to do is put in these 4 little nuts on there to hold it down. And the bolts stick out just enough to where when you tighten down these nuts, it's going to be kind of flush. The bolts really aren't going to be sticking out of the nuts. So, and when you tighten these, tighten them diagonal. Don't tighten them side by side. If you tighten them diagonal, it'll help the wheels set evenly. So notice I'm tightening them up diagonally and then tighten them up evenly as well, so that way you can be assured that the wheel is going to be tightened flat and not bind. All right. And we'll do the other side the exact same way. Playing the game of lining up the holes. There we go. Now it's in. Boom. All right. There you go. So that's the front. And let's do the back. Back, exact same way. Okay, so now it's time for the back. So we got a couple of wheels and tires here. So the tires, these little diagonals need to be facing the back. Why? Because there's the little cups, you know, built into this tire, and that's what's going to grab the dirt as you're turning. If you put this the wrong way and it turns this way, the smooth side is going to hit the dirt, and that's not going to get a lot of traction. So you want to make sure that this diagonal is facing the back so that the cup is facing the front. These go on the same way as the front, except they should be a little bit easier because there's no center to them. It's just the 4 bolts that slide in and nothing else. So you want to make sure that you have clear, it's clear going all the way through. Otherwise you're going to have to kind of slide these these wheels are separate wheels, you know, so there's 3 pieces to them, so you have to slide them a little bit to make sure that the holes line up. So the holes line up, this should pop right in. And if they don't line up, it's not going to be smooth sailing, I can tell you that. And they're very finicky. There we go. All right, so it looks like we're all in. Got 4 bolts showing. And now comes the fun part. These are really kind of deep. So I might have to do this off camera, because trying to do this, hold this, and doing it on camera or keeping it at that camera angle is difficult. Yeah. So let me get these 4 bolts on, and I'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we got both rear wheels on, and we basically have a finished product. So works very nice. So now we've got, we're not going to bother with the antenna, but we've got a body to consider. And so let me see what we've got here in terms of a body. So we have this truck body that I'm considering. So the 566B Super Trail came with 2 different bodies. One was this truck, and you rarely see that, and the other is the buggy body. Let me show you what the buggy body, well actually let me clean up this mess. Because this is basically all done and put together at this point. So let me clean up this mess, and then let me show you the difference between the buggy and this. Because if we decide to go with this truck body, you know, we're going to have to cut it out. There's some things that we're going to need to do. We have to cut out a piece of the back for the back roll bar to stick through. And there's some body modifications that we need to make. So let me show you what we've got, and let me clean this up first, and we'll be right back. So before wrapping up, I wanted to show you the 2 body styles that came with the 566B. The first one is the buggy. This is by far the most popular, the most prevalent that's out there. And pretty much, you know, consistent with all the buggy styles of its time. You know, everything is the same, the chassis is the same, just the body. But here's the weird part about this whole body thing. So the other body that came with it is this truck body. Now this is a reproduction, but the reproduction is pretty true to the original. It might lack some of the detail, like on the Ford lettering. It's not exactly crisp, but nonetheless, it's pretty close to what the original is. So I commend TBG for their bodies. But the interesting thing about the truck body, this is the chassis we just restored, is you would think that they would have given you a different roll bar for the back, so you wouldn't have to cut the bed. For the truck body, you have to actually cut the bed to allow the roll bar to flow through it. So rather than making, and I understand it's to keep the bed from sliding or what have you, but I really think that that could have been better handled. Maybe instead of having the whole roll bar go through, you know, brace it underneath and just have 2 body posts pop through. I don't know. That could have been done better. The other is, I'm not sure. I might have to raise this front body post here, because I don't think it has the clearance to get all the way to the top. I'd have to check that. But the original instructions also state that this front bumper piece, actually you cut the front of this, and the front of this is supposed to sit behind this. But I don't see how that's going to be possible. The wheel wells don't seem to line up for that. I don't know. I'd have to check and see what happens once we cut the body out. But the main thing is I wanted to show you the two different body styles. So, you know, but I'm going to leave the body, the cutting out of the body, and even the painting of the body for another video. We'll just do a video on how I cut out the bodies and paint them. And so that'll be another video unto itself. In the meantime, I think we can pretty much wrap this video up. We have a full restoration, 90% I would say, at this point. And basically, I will consider this done. You know, minus the body, of course. So if you have any questions, comments, you know, I hope you learned from my mistakes that I might have made throughout the video, but I also hope that it gave you a glimpse of how easy actually it is to put one of these things together. The tough part is finding all the parts. The parts are tough to find. AYK parts, if you do even find the right parts, they're not exactly inexpensive. So, you know, but if you have any questions, comments, feel free to put in the comments below. And you know my motto, you know, have fun. You only live once.